Here are 12 30-second good practices and tips for your design and implementation of your programs. First, set realistic expectations. This should be both for yourself and for your partners or participants. There are benefits to remote capacity building, as we've noted, but there are also challenges and limitations, and it helps to be transparent about those. Communicate clearly, frequently, and in multiple formats. It can even feel like over-communication at times, but it's necessary. Digital avenues for communication are often competing with other inputs, not immediate in terms of getting feedback, and can't catch everyone with one method. Variety. Strive for variety both in the formats of the content that you produce, but also the experiences and the opportunities for interaction that are given to participants. Accessibility. Always design and produce with accessibility in mind. There are set standards for accessibility in education for those with disabilities, and you can also think of accessibility when it comes to the language of your target audiences and their levels of access. Bandwidth. When it comes to bandwidth, consider if you need to make lower bandwidth options available. There are ways of doing that, by using audio, by compressing files, by making learning mobile friendly, and more. Design. Looks really do matter. If you're like us, it is likely that you don't have professional video editors or animators on your team, but a small effort at making a course or program look like there has been a visual effort put in goes a long way. Relationships. Relationship building should be built in alongside skill building. Don't think that because something is online that relationships aren't possible. They are, just with some additional and intentional effort and design. Platforms. When choosing a platform, make sure that your process and your pedagogy inform your platform choice. And this can then widen your choices to being anything from an Excel spreadsheet to WhatsApp to Messenger, and of course to shinier, more full-feature e-learning programs or platforms. Social learning. Whenever possible, try to make learning social by making it both collaborative and connected. How can participants join in the learning process together? And how can you facilitate those connections? Offline polls. This means that online programs and courses and mentoring programs are oftentimes more successful when they are integrated into other institutions or offline networks or connections, which we are calling polls here. So consider how your e-learning program or remote capacity building program can fit into one of these existing networks or relationships or institutions that will help it be more successful. Make learning tangible and relevant. Especially when learning is done in a remote format, it can often feel theoretical or disconnected. You can counter this by using things like case studies, examples, and scenarios, and of course making sure that these fit into the context and are relevant to the target audience of your program. Finally, consider objectives and modes of motivation. These can be things like incentives, whether they're badges or certificates. It can be using gamification in your course or your program. It can be meeting the expectations of the partners or participants that are involved in your program, and that being the motivating factor for them to continue. Thank you for watching our 12 tips and good practices. What do you think are most applicable to your work? And what else would you add? Remember, if you have any questions about these or others, feel free to input those into the question board. Thanks again.